Hello all. I'm here to review last night's League Two fixture as the Mariners hosted, of course, Tranmere Rovers, and I just went to watch the game back. Obviously, I was there last night, but then I watched the game back, and it wasn't as bad as it felt on the night. But it was obviously a disappointing and again a situation where the Mariners was probably, well, we were the better team. Everything says that, but we don't finish our dinner, shall we say, and take the chances and try and punish us. The Mariners made three changes from the side that drew at Swindon. Christy Pym came back in obviously after his suspension. Harvey Rogers, Terrell Warren, Cam McJanet and Reece Staunton. With Geza Toure in there. His second back-to-back game since being here. Darragh Burns, Jamie Walker, Evan Corey. They were the other two changes that came in. Charles Burnham and Danny Rose up front. Tranmere started with 43-year-old Murphy, I believe. Then they had Joseph, Cameron Norman, the former Walsall defender, Smith, Brough, and Patrick. Samari Patrick, of course. Blacker, Finley, and Charlie Whittaker, the former Notts County loanee, with former Mariners striker Connor Jennings and Joe Ironside as well. So, and of course, we'll talk about Mr. Dennis as this review goes on. But the Mariners, for the first 20 minutes, had a lot of good football between the players. Geza was doing well. Darragh Burns absolutely running it down the left. Charles Burnham, every single time we got the ball out to Vernon, we looked dangerous. Although Vernon did look like a step off a little bit, but again, every time the ball got to him, there was always something coming our way. A couple of good early crosses for Chaz. One that was put right across, which I think Dara and Rosie went for. Unfortunately, went right across the face, and it was just all a little bit of frustration. The football wasn't as fluid as it's been in previous games, but it was, the territory was definitely Grimsby's in the first half. But to be completely honest, after 20 minutes, that totally blew up in Town's face as Charlie Whittaker got the opening goal, and kind of did a Vernon type move, really. It'll be one of them that I think the defence will be fairly happy about, because he cut in from the left hand side and sort of didn't curl it, he sort of floated it into the far bottom corner. People were wondering, was Pym at fault? Not really. Pym did not see that till very, very late, but he'll feel himself he was disappointed he didn't get to that, because there wasn't a lot of power in it. In fact, there wasn't really power in that. It was more very well placed, and obviously Pym's view was blocked, couldn't quite get it across, so it nestled into the bottom corner. So that wasn't really the best of starts. Tranmere did, and then the first half sort of petered out I keep getting ahead of myself. Just started to peter out. Again, Town having a lot of the ball, but not really doing a great deal with it. Danny Rose looked very, very isolated in the first half. Definitely. But like I said, there was always that threat with Dara and with Chaz. There was always that threat. Ev had some good touches, but there was also some loose passes by Grimsby. It was sort of a very frustrating first half, which, you're asking for more. It wasn't about the lads weren't trying, but for some reason, it just wasn't happening. And also, why is it every time we seem to play on a Thursday night, the rain comes plummeting down? We did that last season against Notts County at Notts County. It was the same there. And whenever we play in the week, we always seem to come across poor weather. And to be fair, like I said, Town continued to zip the ball around, but as much as I'm saying that, they were also very lackluster. So it's kind of like a contradictory statement, but I don't feel like the lads clicked in that first half. They most definitely didn't, and it was it was a very frustrating first half. Town, I called it probably the worst 45 minutes I'd seen. Looking back on it, watching the game back, not as bad, but I would still see up there this season as probably one of the worst 45 minutes. As much as we had the territory, we didn't really put Joe Murphy under a lot of pressure, which would frustrate everybody. And then going into the second half, we were very fortunate to not go 2 down. As 10 minutes in to the second half, like I said, former Town owner Joe Ironside was offside when Amari Patrick's excuse me, shot came off him and went into the net, but the referee deemed that as offside. So that sort of gave us a bit of impetus, because after that, again, Town dominated again with plenty of chances, and we were in the ascendancy. There was crosses coming in. One thing I did notice throughout the second half is that we started to get earlier balls in the box than what we had done in the first half. Again, I think sometimes what we try and do is we try and do vintage Arsenal. We keep trying to pass the ball in to the net sometimes, and sometimes the crosses were being blocked off well by Tranmere, but I also think that we waited sometimes just a little too long. Dara Burns, though, did get a goal back. The dominance after the 55th minute made some fruit as Dara shot from around about 20 yards out in the 67th minute, and Murphy was sort of caught flat-footed, and a goal. And to be fair, Dara, like I said, best player on the pitch by an absolute mile. He just kept running like Burnham in the first half. Dara throughout the game was always a threat down the right hand side. It was a pleasure to see his best performance, obviously, in a Town shirt. Very, very close. About 5 or 6 minutes after that, Dara had a glorious chance to put the Mariners in front. A ball across was floated across, and Dara somehow, when it looked like easier to score, Murphy tried to close it down and did, but what a glorious chance, hit the post from about 2 yards out, really. And it was like, how did that not go in? And again, we kept dominating without really putting Murphy under a great deal of pressure overall, saves-wise, apart from those couple of saves in the first 10 minutes from Vernon and Jamie Walker's volley. And obviously then Burns hitting the post, like I say. But again, we were dominant in the way of possession and in the way of movement. The game changed for us when Terrell Warren went off and on came Jays Cabia, because it was literally, I think about a minute, 2 minutes after Jays was introduced that Dara got his goal. And once we went to up top, we were far the better side. But somehow or another, again, the lack of ruthlessness let us down, and it did. And it, especially at League 2 level, this season especially, if you aren't clinical enough, this happens. And going into injury time, you thought the only team that was going to win it was us, and it turned out to be all so wrong. About 15 minutes before the end, or 12 minutes or so, they brought on, like I said, former Mariners loanee Christian Dennis, and it was a player that I've always liked and I've always respected. I was thrilled when we got him on loan a few seasons back, but we did not get the best version of Christian Dennis. But what a kick in the balls this ended up being. We failed to clear our lines from across. It came off Dara Burns, just flicked off Dara, and Dennis was at the far post to just slot in and win it. Slotted it past Pym and nicked it at the death. He did sort of shush the pontoon, which he obviously ended up getting booked for his celebration. But it's one of the more frustrating forms. As I heard David Artell's post-match with Humberside especially, where and with the club media, where he says that 45 minutes, we had to wait 45 minutes to get going and start playing our football. It wasn't us in the first half. I have to agree with Artell there. I know a lot of fans right now are, we need a striker. No, we don't. We've got goals in the side. To me, I think that's... but I'm also going to say this. This is David Artell, and I'm actually defending him here, not actually knocking him. This is what David Artell is. David Artell is an attacking coach, right? His main priority and his philosophy is score more, obviously, than your opposition. So what I mean by that is, if they score 2, we score 3. That is Artell's philosophy. And I love it how some fans now, are basically saying, we need to be tighter, we need to be, more pragmatic. Artell's not a pragmatic coach like that. He won't play like that. Yes, we need we need more at the back. Of course we do. You know, but this was Artell last year as well. You know, he's not defensive minded. You're asking him to do something that our old coach was stronger at, which was make us more defensively sort of strong, you know, but we didn't have the attacking flair that Artell does. So I'm not going to jump down Artell's throat right now to go that, you know, we need to be massively sorted out. We need some reinforcements at the back, obviously, and frustration at the minute. We need to be more clinical. People are saying we need another striker. I think every single team in the country wants another striker. But you've got to remember, we've scored 33 goals this season so far. I don't think goal scoring is our problem. Our problem is we're not seeing teams off. That's our problem. And it's like you want, you know, some fans want Artell to play the way, basically defend the way that Paul Hurst did. You know, so you want him to do that. And I've said this to people in the past. I said, this is Artell's way of playing. You know, which can, when it looks like this, it can come across as extremely naive. Because it's it's fluid. The defending is fluid. It's not solid to that regard. Is it reliable? No, I mean, when you think about it, we've conceded 2 at Swindon. We've conceded 2 last night. You know, on average, we concede about 2 a game under Artell anyway. It's just that we're not being, at the minute, we're not scoring 3 goals. That's the thing. That was a stat that a friend of mine put out saying after that defeat last night that we haven't won against 11 men since August, when we played Walsall. I understand that stat, but, you know, they got players sent off. That's not, you know, that is just what it is, you know. And I think that's one of our last clean sheets, to be honest. But like I said, we haven't won now since Gillingham, which a fan brought to my attention yesterday as well, while we were talking about the game while it was happening. And just, it's very hard to understand how we've lost that game, because if you look at the stats, everything read in Grimsby's favour. 61.4% of the ball, 13 shots, 6 on target. You know, Tranmere had 6 and only 2 on target, and both times they were on target, they scored. You know, their goalkeeper had to make 5 saves. Christie, in a sense, didn't. He didn't make a save, but in general, aerial duels won. They did win 34 duels to our 25, but they made 17 fouls. We made 8. 5 corners to their 1. Every stat's making you think, how in the world did Grimsby lose this game? And it is down to just not finishing them off, you know, and keeping a team like Tranmere in the game. But again, I see fans going, you know, Artell needs to sort this out. Guys, this is how Artell plays. He plays that way. And like I said, when it goes wrong, it looks naive defensively. We probably are a bit naive defensively. But that's the way Artell plays. You know, it's like, I mean, I made a prediction last night of 3-0 to Town. but there's no half the time saying nil to the other side because, majority of the time that doesn't happen. And, I know it's frustrating, only one win in the last 6, and we don't now play in the league until December the 9th now. So we don't, against Shrewsbury's next time we're in league action. And it's difficult to say. The first half, I will say probably the worst 45 minutes I've seen this season in person. Didn't look so bad on TV, but definitely on the night it felt worse. And then we were just punished, and that is what you get when you've got somebody like Christian Dennis to come off the bench. It was just right place, right time, really. I think Town will be very, very annoyed not to get the points. The minute that leaves us in 9th, we're gonna drop. Once Saturday's games occur, we're gonna drop, and inevitable with the league being as tight as it is. But I think this is proof of where do we need to strengthen at the back. We need to be more aware defensively. I think that's our problem. We're not defensively aware. You cannot keep conceding 2 goals or so and keep expecting to get something. That's at least the second game running where we've conceded 2. But I'm not going to be too hard on David Artell, because at the end of the day I think I'd be a hypocrite if I started to give him all the credit in the world, then all of a sudden come down and say all of a sudden he the defence needs sorting out. Apparently he didn't know about Svan Thorson being in a boot, a medical boot. We'll see what comes of that. And I think some fans are starting to get a little bit agitated. The only good thing is we're not being well beaten. But this one stings because it was last minute and we were dominant. But guys, I'm sorry, this is Artell's style of play. And he said it many times in post-matches and pre-matches. I'd rather us go and try and win and maybe concede a few than shut up shop. So under Artell, you've got to accept that it can happen. And it will happen from time to time. He's not pragmatic where that's concerned. Where, right, he'll get a couple of goals up and then not try and get more. Or once he's got back in a game, he won't settle for a draw. He won't settle for a win. And that's no criticism of him. That's just the way Artell is. And then I'm seeing people say, well, the defence needs to be better. They do, because, we're giving away some weak goals. But I have to admit, I did see somebody say about the crowd was flat. We were. Partly down to the players not doing a great deal in the first half. But true, we were flat all the way through that. I think the atmosphere was flat. We got together when Darvis scored. It's an easy game to actually review. Town had plenty more chances, didn't take them. Tranmere had 2 big ones and took them. Christy Pym didn't have much to do. It's not Christy's fault. People say, well, Christy's done a knock. I said, Christy we need a new goalkeeper. No, we don't. I don't buy into that. I think that's just emotion coming out. He couldn't do anything about those 2 goals, really. I think we have to look at the way we closed down for the first, and the second one, it just came off, it just deflected off Dara, and Christian was there to tap in, but it just feels like we're very loose defensively. And that's Artel's style of play, I'm sorry. You've got to score 3 or 4 under Artel, because you are going to concede. You are going to concede goals under Artel. It's just inevitable. People were saying, well, we scored 7 against 9 men, wasn't it? We've lost to 10 men as well this season. It's frustrating, and obviously the night before, I'm glad I didn't actually do the review last night, because I honestly think I'd have been a lot more annoyed. Watching it back makes me realise, second half, when we went up top with KB and Rose, we looked different. Evans seemed to, you can tell Evans a little bit rusty as well by some of his touches and some of his passes that were loose. But you're going to get loose passes in League 2. There wouldn't be League 2 players if they were not going to play a loose pass or 2. Frustrating, a little bit annoying, knowing that we're probably going to drop out of the, depending on results, of the top half, which is not really what you want to do. But again, it's teams you don't expect to slip up against that you do slip up against, and probably our worst performance overall in the league so far. But again, I'm not going to jump down Artel's throat, because this is what David Artel's football is like. We want to be entertained, but also realise that we are susceptible to conceding a few. We can score. People were saying Danny Rose didn't do much in the first half. He was isolated. That's the trouble when you play with one main striker. You get isolated. I think the KB Rose partnership could work if Artel plays it, even if it's at home, and then plays that, away. Plays that formation he started with. Play that away from him and play, 3-5-2 even. At home or something like that, 4-4-2. And play that at home, but in a way, start with what he started with. So, Mariners fans, it's a frustrating defeat for the Mariners, but again, it's one of them that we're just going to take on the chin and realise that this will happen from time to time with David Artel's style. David Artel is a great attacking coach. Defensively, I don't think he focuses, I don't feel like he focuses so much on that. He's more about, can we get more than the opposition? Not are we tough to break down. It's, can we outscore the proposition, the opposition, not the proposition. It's kind of like, he is the true version of the song Vindaloo. We're going to score one more than you. If they score 4, we'll score 5. And no one had a great first half. Had a far, far better second half. But again, it's one of those that, you cannot keep conceding to. But it was unlucky, that second goal. It was nobody's really fault, apart from maybe the cross shouldn't have been allowed to have come in. But no, Tranmere go away with all 3 points. Credit to the 240 fans, or so 220, 240 fans that travelled down on a Thursday night for that game. 5,565 was the attendance. Obviously, I'm sure the weather may have played a part in that, including with it being obviously on TV. And I do say to anyone that was there, if you were able to watch the game back, do so. Because I think watching it back made me, yes, annoyed, but not as fuming as I was when I left the ground. We weren't good in the first half, but we weren't as bad as I thought. And leave me your thoughts, guys. What do you think? I mean, where do you think we need to get better? I think we know certain areas where we need to be. And who do you blame for the defeat? I think we just got to accept this is the way Artel plays football. So you have to be prolific under Artel's style of football. You know. And so I'm not going to be, like I said, I'm not going to be overly harsh because that's the way Artel plays. And he won't change. He won't change. And I don't expect him to. He's not that type of manager. You know, he's not one about staying solid. He's one about, right, can we outscore the opposition? Can we score 3 or 4, but let in a couple? But I've always said, when it's going well, we look like world beaters. When it's not under Artel, it looks naive. So my final thought on this is just got to accept it. Don't have to like it, but we've got to accept that we got cut out by a canny little striker in Christian Dennis right near the end when we dominated and just didn't put Tranmere away. And it can happen. So leave me your thoughts down below. Who was your man of the match? Mine was Darrell Burns. Do you agree? Because Sky also agreed with that and gave Darrell Burns man of the match just before the goal. Ironically, I wonder if they'd have given it to Christian Dennis if it had happened before they gave it. But no, I feel sorry for especially Darrell because that was his best overall performance in a town shirt. Leave me your thoughts down below on that game. How disappointed are you going into the weekend knowing that, you know, we had a real opportunity to go up to 4th if we'd have won instead, but now we're more likely to probably be 12th by the close of play at the weekend because it is so tight around there. And like I said, Town will be back in action in 8 days' time with the FA Cup tie against Wealdstone. We're back in league action on the 9th of December when we host Shrewsbury Town. And just let me know down below what you guys really feel like. I'll be intrigued to know, you know, what you honestly think of it. Like, share, subscribe. Like I said, I'm trying to be as calm as I can and a realist. And that's all you can be. Leave me your thoughts down below. And hopefully we can sort out our defensive little defensive lapses right now. Because if we can do that, we've got enough of a threat to be up there. Even the Sky commentators were saying that over the game, really. Town have got enough to be challenging up there. So it's not about being too frustrated, but it's about understanding, guys, this is how we play under Artel. We are very, very open. And you've just got to somewhat accept it, even if you don't want to. So leave me your thoughts down below. Like, share, subscribe, comment, hit that bell button. I'll let you know when I upload the next video. In the meantime, guys, up the manners. Again, dust yourselves off. Go again. I will see you guys in the next one. Ta-ra for now. We're gonna fall. I don't believe it. I'll see you guys soon. Ta-da.